Update to my parents getting my brother a car on his 18th birthday and not mine. Original post. Okay, I know the title sounds like I'm spoiled, but hear me out. My brother 20 got a car for his 18th birthday. Not a new car or anything. It was a 20-year-old Lexus that was in a pretty good shape. And he rubbed it in my face for the rest of the time he was in senior year of high school. Compared with my brother, I get just as good of grades as he does. Better in some cases even. I worked my hardest in the hope of fairness. I even did some volunteering cleaning up garbage in my local area. Then my 18th birthday came and went a few weeks ago. And the only thing I wanted, the only thing I was hoping for, was a car. I wasn't expecting something like a new car or a sporty car. Just something reliable like my brother got. My party wasn't even anything like my brother's 18th. For his 18th, my mom baked the cake herself. It was a delicious layered chocolate pudding cake, while I got a sheet cake from the supermarket. For his, they got a DJ. For mine, it was my dad's old boombox with a couple of mixed CDs. We went through the whole party and I figured my parents might have just been waiting to spring a surprise gift on me. But that didn't happen. I asked them as things were wrapping up why there was no car when my brother got one. And they said that they felt like he had worked harder for it. I asked what he did that I didn't do, because I did all of that and more. My grandma was nearby and heard everything. And then she asked them why as well. She ended up lecturing my parents that she was very, very, very disappointed in them for showing favoritism. Then she proceeded to announce to everyone still there that my parents thought it's fine to get their firstborn son a car and DJ, but not their second. And then she even pointed out how much harder my parents tried for my brother's 18th birthday than they had for mine. My uncle was the first to stand up and say something. Then everyone else who'd not left yet. I ended up just walking away and going to my room to sit and think. I got a few I'm sorry calls from my relatives and my grandparents convinced me to go out with them for the evening. But when I got back, my parents were angry and told me I'd shamed them for the whole family. I just walked past them because I didn't want to fight. The next few weeks went by with a silent treatment between us. But then a few days ago, my parents suddenly surprised me with a white 98 Subaru Legacy that runs great. They practically threw the keys and the title in an envelope at me and said to have fun. I got the car and they're paying for the insurance for the next 6 months like they did for my brother. I know a car isn't really a right, but a privilege. So I feel like I've essentially blackmailed my parents into getting me one. Am I the a-hole for how all this played out? Edit. I would like to clarify a few things. My parents make pretty good money. And also don't go out of their way to live lavishly by choice. They've always been moderate in everything they buy or do. Though if anything is stretching their finances, it's my brother's college tuition. He got a partial scholarship and my parents are paying the rest. I don't, and never intended to ask for the same treatment on that. I want to work and pay my own student loans. Now that I have the car, I'm already looking into getting a part-time job. This also isn't a gender thing as I'm male like my brother. The bill of sale for the car I got says my parents paid $1,600 for it. My brother's car cost them about $30,000 plus, if I remember correctly. But I don't see it as a money issue. I actually really loved a Subaru, and told my parents so, though they did not share my enthusiasm. I also did try to talk about a car with my parents a few times last year, but they always dodged the conversations about the topic. I figured if I talked about it too much, it would ruin it, and so I stopped. I would have felt like a brat to keep talking about getting an imaginary car, so I learned to just stay silent and hope. I can't go stay with my grandparents because they live in a one-bedroom condo. There isn't enough room for other people. After all their kids grew up, my grandparents decided to downsize to make their eventual retirement easier. Also, my grandparents know all of the details already, and they tell me that I didn't do anything wrong. And we're already planning on confronting my parents quietly over the car issue, but they took the chance to take care of the matter when they heard me asking my parents about it. As for my brother's 18th birthday party, it was held in 2020 during basically the height of the pandemic. Honestly, we shouldn't have had a big party like that at a time, but my parents insisted. As for my brother himself, he barely speaks to me even before he left for college. He didn't show up for my 18th birthday party, and I figured that's just because he's busy with college, and he's not even in the same state as us anymore. Honestly, I haven't seen or heard from him since Christmas, but even then the most I got out of him was a mild greeting. I did thank my parents for the car. Enthusiastically thanked them even, but they've barely said a word to me after giving me the Subaru. And when I thanked my parents, they brushed me off and just went inside. It kind of gave off the vibe that they were letting a brat play with his new toy, which was pretty upsetting. and one of the reasons I made this post. There was one more thing I forgot to say. I was really hoping to get a car because I literally couldn't get a part-time job without one. We don't live in a city, and we're 10 miles from the nearest public bus stop. I've always had to get rides to go anywhere. Now that I have the Subaru, I intend to look for a part-time after-school job as soon as I can. Since it came up in so many messages, I want to clarify that when I went to talk to my parents after the party, it wasn't in front of the rest of the family. I intentionally spoke with them in another room and was supposed to be out of earshot of everyone else there. But my grandma eavesdropped and then barged in to start lecturing my parents about their actions. And that's what caused a crap storm to start. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You come across as a good kid. I'm gonna say not the whole 95%, a little bit a hallish 5%. Doing it in front of people wasn't great. I tried to keep my conversation about a car with my parents private. Had my grandma not been listening in, then that blowout with family wouldn't have happened there. When I was talking with my parents, we were in another room. Either way, it doesn't matter because the other people in my family noticed how little effort my parents put in compared to my brother's 18th, and were ready to ream them over it later. In the end, I probably would have gotten the car the same way, whether or not my grandma made a scene that day, because she was ready to call my parents out as unfair at any time. Not stay home. But just out of curiosity, did they always show him favoritism? It was pretty fair and even when we were little, but it just slowly started to happen over time. And I guess since my brother was the first to be of age, they just focused everything on him. Not stay home. The way they got called out by the whole family is hilarious. They're mad they got caught. Good on you, Opie. You just know the parents were ready to revise history and downplay all of Opie's accomplishments, but Grandma didn't let them. Go, Grandma. It's so satisfying to see how the rest of the family stepped in to set things straight. Opie, your parents were showing obvious favoritism. This isn't Cinderella. They got named and shamed in front of the whole family as they deserve. Please, don't let this shake your confidence in yourself. You worked hard, and even if your parents refuse to see it, you will meet so many people in your life that will love, appreciate, and respect the effort you put in. Be kind to yourself, Opie. You were not the a-hole. Now 40 updates 6 months later. I've not logged onto this account in roughly 5 months, so now I can tell you all the rest of what happened before college starts. But before that, there are some things I want to get out of the way from previous commenters and messengers. I literally needed a car because there was no way for me to get a job without one. I had no personal transportation and live over 10 miles from the nearest bus stop. So for those who kept telling me to give the car back because they think I was either too spoiled and to accept life isn't fair, or that I shouldn't take handouts, or I shouldn't accept gifts from crappy parents, etc., please just stop. My inbox was so crammed full when I logged back on that it took some time to go through it all. It doesn't really matter anyway though. I did get a part-time job that later went full-time for the summer after I graduated. But 3 weeks into working part-time, the Subaru blew the head gasket while on the highway at like 45 miles an hour. The temp gauge redlined, and I had to pull over and call for help. My grandparents took a look at the car and found that someone had ran a lot of gasket sealer in it, and it was still in the coolant. The car was basically band-aided back together before my parents bought it, and was then barely hanging on by a thread. It drove great, and I was never pushing the car hard as I'm kinda a slow driver. My parents claimed no prior knowledge of the problem, but their only real reaction was to shrug and say it was karma for making them get me the car in the first place. Well, that was a mistake because my grandparents were right there to witness that, and they turned to my parents like none other. My grandma told me to go wait in my room and let them sort this out. It was 2 hours before I was called back into the living room. My parents were on the couch and both looked like they'd both been metaphorically hit by a truck. My uncle and 2 other relatives were there now too. My grandparents had gotten it out of them that when they bought the car, they just looked for the cheapest thing they could find close in the area that still ran, and bought it no questions asked. They didn't even bother to inspect the car, let alone properly read the ad for it. My uncle, who knows a thing or two about cars, told me that the engine would basically need to be rebuilt because the head gasket warped at the block, and it would cost more than the car worth to fix it. I had to call into work and tell them I wasn't able to make it in because my car was dead. They understood and basically put me on a sort of unpaid leave for the moment. Now, I want to point out that what happens next I had no involvement with. My grandparents just told me to chill for a while and let them and my parents take care of this. And they did. A few days later, they came back with a 1999 Honda Civic hatchback with 180,000 miles on it. It was white like my Subaru was, and drives great. It's not all-wheel drive like the Subaru was, but it's great on the road and gets better gas mileage. There was also a list of all recent repairs done to the car, things like a new radiator and stuff. My uncle also went over the car before giving it the okay. I thanked everyone profusely. My parents, though, had all the elation of Benstein and Valium. They said very little and just walked away. There wasn't even that vibe they had last time of acting like they were giving a new toy to a brat. If I could put it to words, the way they acted was just pure defeat. The Subaru got resold later for $400 since that was the best we could get for it with a blown head gasket, and that money was put into my savings. That's only half of what happened though. You see, when I said I did better in school than my brother, I wasn't kidding. My brother got a 30% scholarship after he finished high school, while I got a 50% one. Not at the same college, of course, but at one comparably good that was also closer. To say my parents were shocked is an understatement. Of course, they just both looked unhappy as soon as the shock wore off. I decided it wouldn't be a good idea to poke the bear by asking them about it, but my grandma thought otherwise and poked that bear. And I mean really poked it. First, she asked if my parents were happy for me, and they claimed they were, but really didn't show in their attitudes. So my grandparents finally asked what their problem was. Why do they dislike me? Their second son was doing great and even went above expectations, and they can't be happy about it? Did they want me to fail? Were they hoping I'd fail? What is the deal? My mother looked really upset and my father couldn't look me in the eyes. They both meekly said they were happy for me and managed to say they want me to take the world by storm when I go to college. And even said they'll help pay some of my tuition as well, just like they're doing for my brother. My grandparents both sharply said that they'd better keep their word, because there should never have been any favoritism, period. I thanked my parents for their help. Got a light if not limp handshake from my father and a very stiff hug from my mother. It all felt so forced. I was and still am extremely thankful for the car and the tuition, but my parents just drained the room of all emotion. I ended up asking if my grandparents knew what it was that made my parents act this way. I asked if I was an accidental pregnancy or something, and they gave me the "it's time we told you" look. Well, I'm not adopted like so many ask, but I wasn't planned. Sort of. You see, my parents wanted both a girl and a boy, but got 2 boys instead. My brother came out as a boy, so my parents were really hoping to get a girl on the next go, and they had a prior agreement to stop after 2 kids. They never got a girl. My grandma told me they refused to find out my gender until after I was born. They were convinced I'd be born female, and they'd bought a lot of baby stuff for a girl, and they didn't get a girl. My grandma said I ended up using all of my brother's hand-me-downs till I was 3 years old, because my parents had bought so much girl stuff in advance that they couldn't use. So, I was just a disappointment to them from the time I was born. My grandparents said that they know my parents are screwed up, but they've been the way they are for so long now that there's no point in expecting them to change. Since then, my parents hadn't spoken to me much about college. In fact, they ignore the subject as much as they can. And thanks to some of the warnings I got from people who messaged me making me paranoid, I called the college I've been accepted to and made sure to tell them that if anyone calls or emails pretending to be me, or if my parents call trying to say I'm not coming, then to call me for a double or even triple check if anything like that happens. I mean, I kind of doubt my parents would do that sort of thing, especially after everything that's happened, but I felt like playing it safe was the better option. Though there was something that I really didn't expect to happen, and that was my brother calling me. He called me out of the blue to talk. He said our grandparents called him and told him everything. He told me he was sorry for what happened in his own way, and he hopes that once I'm on my own, I won't need to ever come back. He actually admitted to me that when he finishes college, he is going to stay in the state he's in because he likes it there. Our parents, I do know, actually really want him to come back when he gets his degree, but it looks like that's not happening. I said I don't blame him and I may do the same. The rest of the conversation was a bit awkward because we aren't really used to speaking to each other much anymore. My grandparents and the rest of the family held a surprise party for me over the weekend, and they made it almost like a repeat of my brother's 18th birthday. There was a DJ and a big chocolate cake my grandma made. I couldn't thank them all enough. My parents attended the party, but they were like wallflowers the entire time. They didn't say or do much, just stayed sitting at a far table in the corner and drank beer quietly. The look of defeat they had was even greater now. I think the party wasn't just to congratulate me, but to also rub in my parents' faces that they should have done better. Because the rest of the family have made their disappointment in them very clear. They seemed like they wanted to leave the party for a while. Can't say I blame them. They were being humiliated into staying where they were, while my grandma said that you're never too old to be taught a lesson in humility. As for my personal life, my part-time job went to full-time after high school, and I've been working hard to build my savings before I leave for college. I made minimum wage, but a job is a job, and I want to leave it with my best efforts put in before my 2 weeks notice are up. I doubt I'm gonna be coming back here to make another update. And after my first post, I'm just so tired of all the negative comments. About 95% of the comments in my original post were positive, and I want to thank all of those who had nice things to say. You people rock. But the negative comments were so bad that I found it to be mentally draining. Some of the people who commented such negativity honestly feel like they've got worse issues than me. Lots of projecting maybe. If anyone had something harsh but constructive to say, that was fine. But some people just raged at me like they were foaming at the mouth. I really don't want more of that. This is a bittersweet update. I'm so glad your family's rallying around you. This is how you deserve to be treated. You've achieved so much and you should be celebrated. Your parents, well, they have to deal with their own mess. I hope they think long and hard about how terrible they've been. I hope your college experience is amazing. Bittersweet is an apt description of how it panned out, but I'm glad the rest of my family had my back. Hopefully knowing the history will help you move on. Thanks for coming back. Grandma's awesome, and so is the rest of your family. So glad that you have their support. Congratulations to you. Grandma finally had a chance to do to these people what she had watched them to do when Opie was growing up and could do little about. Way to go, Grandma. Update. My 28 female parents were given $30,000 for my grandparents for a wedding and down payment for me. They spent all of it in vacations and now want me to take out a loan for a wedding. Original post. Long story short, my grandparents are wealthy. My mother is very spoiled and self-centered. Additionally, I believe she likely has a cluster B personality disorder. Every single situation is somehow about her. My dad's side can't stand her because she sows chaos anywhere she goes. For example, my dad's side threw a birthday party for one of my cousins. The whole day was focused on a fight because she spent $8 on ingredients to make a lasagna to bring, then ruins the poor kid's birthday. This is just one example, but this every situation, every time she's the center of everything. Her family's pretty wild. I've been present for multiple fist fights between her and her sisters. Every fight stems from someone getting more money than the other. One time, my mom had a phone cord wrapped around my aunt's neck. Although terrible, it was kind of impressive to be honest, as my mom's a small person. Anyway, despite my grandparents being wealthy, I grew up pretty poor in the beginning. My mom got cut off a few years, probably had something to do with the phone cord incident. I remember going to food banks for food, clothes for donations, etc. When things did get better, my parents refused to spend any money on me. If I had clothes for school, it was because my aunt bought me an outfit for Christmas. I mean, they were ridiculous with it. My grandfather, dad's side, tried to get custody of me due to neglected alcoholism. As for the wealthy grandparents, look, I'm not entitled. It's their money. But every grandchild except me got their college paid for, got a car, a down payment on a house, and a wedding. Super freaking generous. I was just hurt that I got none of these things. It felt personal. I felt it was their way of communicating that they loved me less, and that damaged our relationship. Fast forward to this week. I'm engaged. I wasn't expecting a big wedding. I was okay with eloping. But I figured my parents might want to do something since I'm their only kid. So I asked them what they wanted to do. Well, my mom was drunk because, it's 2 p.m., confesses to the $30,000 thing. Then the next day, non-stop pressuring me into taking out a loan. I refused and say, you were given $30,000 for a wedding and a down payment, but you decided vacations and cars were more important. Then the whole thing gets turned into, poor her. Can you believe she won't get to plan a wedding with her daughter because the daughter expects a wedding to be paid in full? What a spoiled witch. Now I have relatives calling me up with this BS. They're under the impression that I'm being a diva. I keep dodging the conversation, but I don't know how long I can do it. Because once my relatives find out, there is no saving her reputation with them. Also, through all of this, found out my grandparents did give money for college. The problem is they gave it to my mom and she spent it. It must have been a decent amount too because my grandparents are under the impression that they paid my college in full. I'm at a loss. I haven't talked to my parents in a week. I know they're my parents and I need to forgive them no matter what, but this is hard. It almost feels like they aren't my parents anymore. That bonding feeling, or whatever it is gone. Sorry that this post was long. It felt cathartic typing this out. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Are your grandparents still alive? If yes, then tell them everything about what happened to the money. If they aren't, tell your relatives everything. And I mean the entire truth. What's the point trying to cover up your mom's reputation when clearly she's a horrible person? How long will you keep enabling her and her condescending attitude? Choice is yours. Oh, be this. You haven't done anything to your mom's reputation. She did all of that, and you're the victim. Don't let her turn you into the devil for this. She's a narcissist and needs to be shown for who she is. Jumping on this to add that OP is under no obligation to forgive her parents no matter what. Everyone gets to choose where their line is, and when/if they want a relationship with someone. Cut out all of the middlemen and speak to your grandparents. Explain to them that the reason you're not speaking to your parents is that they have recently confessed that they spent the college and wedding money that your grandparents gave to them that was intended for you. Explain to your grandparents that you're extremely hurt by this, because not only does it show how dishonest, selfish, and unloving your parents are towards you, but you have existed for years believing that you were the only grandchild that your grandparents never helped for some unfathomable reason, and so you always felt rejected and cast aside by them too. The damage that has been done by their actions is wide-ranging, and not only are you emotionally hurt, but you have college debt and could be in a significantly better financial position if this hadn't happened. It's also worth pointing out that in most countries, this would constitute fraud and theft. They have defrauded your grandparents by pretending to have used this money for the intended purpose. They have stolen this money from you. Your mother asking you to take out the loan is not about wanting to plan your wedding. It's about the fact that she wants to continue the lie to your grandparents. Her plan is that you take out the loan, have a $30,000 wedding, and she tells them that their money paid for it, while you were left with more debt, on top of your college debt. Do not assist your mother in defrauding your grandparents further. This is your grandparents' money. They deserve to know the truth of what happened to it, and why in all these years you never thanked them for any of the money they believed they gave you. Honestly, this would be enough for me to never speak to my parents again. I would even consider reporting them to the police, but I guess your grandparents would need to support that. Your parents' actions are so selfish and cruel it's unreal, and the fact other relatives try to save you from their care speaks volumes. Why your grandparents thought giving them the money was a good idea, I don't know. Please note also that throughout all of this, I have said parents, although you seem very focused on your mother alone. This was both of your parents. There is no excuse for your father having allowed any of this to happen. He is just as culpable and has benefited from the theft of your money. Once your grandparents are aware, tell your other relatives. You have done nothing wrong and don't deserve to suffer the consequences of keeping their actions a secret. And now for the update 1 year later. Not the exact wording of the first post, but it's still up. It is now a little over a year since. I appreciate all of the replies and I apologize for not getting back to everyone, but I read all of them. A lot of you showed sympathy for my grandparents, which is fair. But I think I should disclose that my grandfather is not the most ethical person. He is/was a really cutthroat business person. He was very awful to his children. Also, once he starts giving you huge gifts, he feels you're indebted to him. I was in shock and very emotional when I wrote that post. I went to Reddit because I felt I couldn't get it together enough to remain calm when talking to anyone else. I have a tendency to come off as defensive, which makes it seem like I did something wrong, which I think they were banking on. I didn't talk to my parents or any of my family much for a month. There was a word going around that I blew all the money. It was laying low until it all blew over. Then when people started asking me directly about it, I was able to remain calm and say I was never offered any money. People really grilled me about where the money went. I never got emotional or defensive. Just, I was never offered any money. Maybe you should ask them about the BMW. So everyone knows. I was afraid they wouldn't believe me at first. But considering my parents were financially abusive in my younger years, it wasn't a far stretch. I never planned a wedding because I knew my parents would lie and say they paid for it. I really considered going no contact. My husband talked me into low contact. But we both agreed that we will never give them any money or nice gifts. We will do the bare minimum. As for my grandparents, this conflict is now between them and my parents. Again, everyone is fully aware and no one faults me. Your parents stole the money from your grandparents, intended not only for your wedding, but another considerable sum for your education? Then they expect you to take out a loan to pay for your mom to have the pleasure of organizing your wedding? They are complete narcissists. Firstly, congratulations on your marriage. Sounds like you had a low-key wedding. Good on you for celebrating within your budget and making the best art possible in your marriage. Secondly, I'm amazed how you have remained calm and dignified with your relatives as they speculated about your spending. The truth is out, but nobody's agitating on your behalf for your parents to make restitution for their thievery. I hope your mother's share of the inheritance is adjusted for the sum once your grandmother passes. Finally, your parents have inadvertently given you the gift of self-reliance, which will serve you well into the future as you pay off college debt and save for your children's future and your retirement. Is that how they justified withholding the money from you? Since maybe your mom never got anything from her parents? Honestly, it's not worth talking to them to find out. All the best for a future filled with love for the family you've created for yourself. My mother did get a lot from her parents, but they cut her off for a period of time. I don't think this even registers in her mind is wrong. When I was a young teen, I had to get a job to help pay for basic hygiene products and clothes. They were authorized on my bank account since I was a minor. They wouldn't let me have access to it and stole money from it constantly. They always treated me like I was a financial burden just for existing. They expected their siblings and parents to pay for my necessities. I think they feel this is reimbursement for raising me. I'm angry on your behalf that your extended family knew of this financial mistreatment, and yet did nothing to help you. Parents are obligated to nurture and look after their children. Your parents' narcissism knows no bounds. In some ways, I'm glad you're not completely no contact, as seeing them occasionally just reminds you how far you've moved on from them. I hope your in-laws are fabulous. I think your husband is wrong about low contact. It should be no contact. What's the point of having them in your life? They sound awful and abusive. So, your grandparents gifted you $30,000 and your parents spent it? Or to rephrase that, your parents blew $30,000 of your money? Why are you still in contact with these people? I get their family, but they don't seem to give a crap about you. They actually handed my parents $50,000. They wanted them to use that $50,000 to pay for a wedding, put a down payment on a home for me, and use the remainder, no more than $20,000, towards their debt. Unfortunately, they gave the money to them, not me. They wanted my parents to be responsible for divvying out the money. I guess to make sure I made good decisions when purchasing. But they didn't do that. Legally, I don't have a leg to stand on. There was no paperwork. It was a gift. And believe me, my grandparents would not look kindly on me taking this to court and would not back me up. They're also both in poor health, and I don't want to put that extra chaos on them. I don't know how much longer they're going to live. Next story. I found out that my parents paid out my sister's tuition loans and pressured them to keep it a secret from me. Not that I'm jealous or even slightly upset. I'm just curious to find out why, and more importantly, why they stressed it should be kept a secret from me. My 23 male recently graduated from a top master's degree. During my undergrad, I had many scholarships and grants. Everything was virtually free. For the miscellaneous, it was super expensive, so I took out a loan to cover the cost. It was fine by me because now I make twice as much as I paid, and I can easily redeem my debt if I wanted to. My parents didn't contribute to my education, and I never asked them to. Recently, I found out that my sisters, 25 and 21, had no outstanding debt. I had to arrange trades and due diligence in their accounts, as requested. It was surprised to see no debt, considering that a year earlier they couldn't stop complaining about it. $150,000 combined. I was happy for them at first glance, but when I told them about it over Thanksgiving, they seemed shaken, like I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. A few days later, my older sister told me that our parents paid everything for them, and were clear in instructing them to keep me in the dark. I asked why, but couldn't get a definitive answer. From what I could tell, my sister knows the reason, but has refused to tell me. I'm just really curious. I have a great relationship with my parents. They've always been positive about my education and work. I'm just fretting the possibility they might be thinking I'm a failure or too reckless or such like. Again, I earn decently and live very comfortably, and my parents know all about it. Not sure if I'm just making a big deal out of nothing, but would really appreciate any insight here. Do I just leave it behind or talk about it? It's pretty awful for your parents to do that. It's one thing to pay for them and not you, but it's another thing to lie and hide it. Rather than them thinking you're a failure, I'd say it's much more likely they knew you'd make it on your own without their help. They may not have been so confident in your sisters. It's not pretty crappy of his parents to do so. It's super crappy. Talk to them. You're not making a big deal out of nothing. It's a huge deal for them to treat you so differently to your sisters and to keep it a secret from you. Anyone in your position would be hurt and questioning their motives. Talk to your parents. Whether you really need the money or not, it's BS to give two kids $150,000 and a third kid $0. Even if you were totally debt-free, if they had $150,000 total to give their kids, each should have gotten an equal amount. As an aside, it'd be totally normal for you to be jealous and upset. This is BS on your parents' part, and you are allowed to have feelings about it. I agree 100% this is not right, and clearly they know it was wrong. That's why they kept it a secret. I would disagree that everyone should always get an equal amount. Opie seems to be more gifted than his siblings. Life is never fair with what it hands out. You may argue that it's his hard work and diligence that got him where he is, and you would be absolutely right. But if you think about it, some people can put into work and some cannot. Maybe it's the people they meet. Maybe it is the way they're born. Maybe it is about the expectations from you. Whatever is the reason, Opie's far better off than her siblings. If they gave $50,000 to Opie, it would definitely be nice, but it wouldn't be life-changing. That money was probably life-changing for his siblings. But if you're not equally dividing things, it can definitely create problems. The correct thing to do would be to talk to the Opie about this. If they said that they were thinking about paying off sister's debt and they thought since Opie is doing well enough, would he let them off the hook? I believe Opie wouldn't be upset about it at all. But the secrecy, the exclusion it brings, the feeling of things going on behind your back, that's just unnecessary pain they caused by choosing to go behind his back. Now for the last story. My female 17 parents have taken all my savings that I was preparing for university. What can I do? The title really says it all. I am unbelievably upset and exhausted that I just don't know what to do. I had over $4,000 saved from working the last few years that I was going to use for university next year, but it was in an account my parents controlled. My mom is a gambler and spends almost every evening at VLTs. I now she took my money to cover basic expenses like insurance and power bills. I just don't know what to do now other than wait until I can move out in July. I love my mother, but she's really screwed me over. I know there isn't a way I can get the money back. I don't even know what to say to her. Now for the advice. This happened to me before I graduated high school as well. Saved all my Christmas and birthday money every year because I knew I wanted to go to college when I finished high school. After graduating, I asked where the money was, and my parents said that it went toward my rent for the past 18 years. That makes my blood boil. They chose to have you. So any living cost incurred for the first 18 years was completely on them. I can only imagine what they spent the money on. When you get the chance, cut your contact. Eliminate what is toxic in your life and focus on making yourself happy. Also, take some solace in the fact that $4,000 is like a couple pennies when it comes to loans like that. I have no idea how she's able to access your money, but you should probably make a bank account that she can't get into. If you're under 18, you legally can't have a bank account in the US without an adult co-signing, meaning they have joint access to the account. Normally, parents aren't crappy enough to take money from their own kids, but it does still happen.
Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents that they deserve to be kicked out of my sister's wedding? Original post. So my 37 female, brother Mike, 35 male, is a knob. Always has been and always will be. He has been babied to the point of uselessness by our mom and dad, and that's made him an entitled slob. When he was younger, he showed promise playing rugby, which had my mom and dad believing he was going to be a superstar. The problem was that he never had the work ethic to fully fulfill his potential. However, this meant that he was the golden boy of the family and could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. He was a bully at school, which they brushed off as other kids making up lies, but he was an even bigger bully at home to our younger sister Kelly, 31 female. He would constantly prank her, which basically meant he would do anything he could to embarrass her, including things like pulling her dress up in front of the whole family at a wedding when she was 15. Mom and Dad just said it was siblings being siblings, but the rest of the family were mortified by his behavior. I did try to stick up for my sister, and it worked to a certain extent, but after I went away to uni, there wasn't much I could do, as Mom and Dad just don't listen to anyone. It got so bad that when she was 18, my sister gave up going to her dream university, St. Andrews, and instead moved to London to go to Imperial College London. This was a huge shock to all of us, as she had been talking about St. Andrews since she started high school at 11. When I asked why, she said that St. Andrews was too close to home, and she would be expected to go back more often, but if she went to London, she would only have to go home for Christmas. This broke my heart. After she left, she did exactly that. The only time she was home was Christmas and when I got married. This really annoyed Mom and Dad, as they said she was abandoning the family. I kept my mouth shut and just let them whine occasionally, as I didn't want an argument. After graduating from uni, my parents expected her to move back home. But she didn't. She got a job working in southern England and stayed down there. We are from Scotland, for reference. 6 years ago, Kelly met a great guy, Jake, 30 male. The day she met him, she called me gushing about him, and I've honestly never heard her speak about anyone the way she does him. I've met him several times when I've gone down to visit Kelly, and he's great. Good looking, funny, great job. His family are lovely, and most importantly, he treats Kelly like she hung the moon. It's very cute. After she met him, she cut down how much she came home even more, as she spent the first Christmas with his family, and then the pandemic happened, so she ended up not coming home for 3 years. Her first Christmas home, Mike started his usual BS trying to be the center of attention. When it didn't work out as well as he wanted, since most of the family were more interested in getting to know Jake, he then tried to prank Kelly. He got a big bowl of water and was going to pour it over her. Jake saw what was happening and stepped in front of Kelly, telling Mike not to even think about it. Side note, Jake is 6'3" and has been doing martial arts since he was 4, so he can be very intimidating when needed. Mom and Dad tried to play it off as a harmless prank, but Jake was having none of it. Mike started whining about it just being a prank, and Jake told him that if he pranked Kelly one more time, he would prank Jake by putting his foot up his arse and his fist down his throat. Kelly and Jake left about an hour later, but after that, Mike, Mom, and Dad all had an issue with Jake. Kelly hasn't been back home since. That leads us to now. Kelly and Jake are getting married. They sent out invites in February for August. However, they didn't invite Mike. Mom and Dad are obviously incensed by this and had a huge argument with Kelly. They threatened not to go, and Kelly just said no problem, and that she would get Granddad to walk her down the aisle. I went around to their house on Saturday with my kids. Immediately, my mom started complaining about Kelly and the wedding. I sat and listened for a while before I'd had enough. I asked her what she actually expected. Her and Dad have allowed Mike to be the golden child and get away with everything. Because of that, he can't keep her relationship due to thinking everyone should do everything for him. He can't hold down a job because every job is beneath him, and he's still living at home with zero prospects in life. The man-child is a bully who I don't trust to be around my children unsupervised. He bullied Kelly for most of her teen years, and her only escape was to move over 400 miles away and never come home. My mom got very quiet and then asked me to leave. A few hours later, my dad called, going mad because I'd upset my mom and was taking the side of an ungrateful little girl instead of my parents who gave me everything. This started a huge argument between me and him, where I told him he'd been a crap dad to Kelly and didn't deserve to walk her down the aisle. I've just had enough, but now I've got extended family members telling me I've gone too far, as my mom is barely speaking to anyone and keeps crying. My granddad said it was about time I told them off, but my grandma is upset by all the arguing. So, am I the a-hole for telling my parents that they sucked as parents and deserved to be kicked out of my sister's wedding? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Sounds like they kicked themselves out. They only care about Mike's feelings, not the years of trauma they caused Kelly. Not the a-hole. If they can't stand the truth, they need to hibernate. I vote Grandpa walks her down the aisle regardless of who attends. My sister isn't changing her mind. They aren't going to the wedding no matter what. She only invited them as she thought it was the right thing to do in the first place. So, Granddad will be walking her no matter what. Be prepared for them turning up anyway, and with Mike in tow. I am going to speak to Kelly about this. I don't think they would, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Love, Jake. Can't wait until they get older and expect Golden Child to take care of kids. OP. Don't bail them out. Let them experience the fruit of their years of bad behavior. Maybe then they will realize they did something wrong. Don't let your kids be around your parents unsupervised. Personally, I wouldn't allow your parents or brother around your kids at all. You may be numb to it, but witnessing abuse all the time can be quite damaging for kids' mental development. You might want to consult a therapist for their thoughts on how exposure to them could be affecting your kids. My kids have never been around my parents without either myself or my husband, as I know they would let my brother be around them unsupervised. They won't be going anywhere near my parents for a long while. They don't like going to my parents' house anyway. Now for the update. Hi all, that post took off a lot more than I thought it would. There were way too many comments for me to respond to, but I tried to read every one of them. I was asked for an update, so here it is. There were a few things that came up repeatedly, so I'll address them first. The pranks only started after I had left and gone to uni. He would say things to Kelly and I would argue back when we were younger, but it wasn't anything more than that until after I'd left home, so there wasn't much I could really do to stop it. I did speak to our parents, but they were useless. Second, about my kids. I didn't bring them around much, as they didn't like going to my parents' house. They said it was boring and they didn't like Mike. After all the comments I received, I sat them down and asked again. For my daughter, it really is just that she finds it boring and says Mike is a weirdo. My son, however, said he doesn't like being around my dad because he keeps trying to make him play rugby. I had heard these comments before and told my dad to drop it, but he would still make remarks occasionally. I had no idea it was actually upsetting my son. This surprised me. My son doesn't like sports, watching, or playing. He's very much like his dad in that regard. He's into Pokemon, plays online, and goes every Thursday evening to play in a tournament at our local card shop. Rugby is an absolute no-go for him. The third thing was about security at the wedding. I spoke to Kelly and Jake said that 2 of his groomsmen are police officers who are aware of the situation, so that won't be a problem. Lastly, there were a lot of comments about Mike being the golden child. For more backstory, he wasn't really the favorite until his talent in rugby came to light. After that, he was special and had to be treated as such. I think he was seen as mom and dad's way of being special within the family because they had such a super talented child. Anyway, today I decided to sit down with my parents and tell them I needed a break from them. When I got there, my dad immediately wanted me to apologize to my mom, but I said that wasn't going to happen. There was a bit of back and forth between him and me until my mom stepped in and asked why I was there if not to apologize. I told them I had spoken to Kelly and she didn't want them at the wedding at all, that they needed to stay away and respect her decision. They weren't happy, but said they wouldn't go where they weren't wanted. I then told them I wanted space until after the wedding because I couldn't keep being around them and keeping my mouth shut. I thought some space would be good for all of us. My mom wasn't happy and started going on about seeing my kids. I told them the truth, that my kids hate coming to their house, and told my dad exactly why my son doesn't want to be around him. He got upset and said rugby would be good for him. I shut that down and said I'm not going to force my son to do something he doesn't want to do, especially something I know he'll hate. I also told him that if I hear him mention it around my son again, he won't see him again. Right now, they'll only be seeing my kids at family events, so I'm hoping it won't be a problem. I then asked them what their long-term plan was with Mike. Are they going to keep things the way they are until they're 90 and mom is still making all his meals? What happens when they're gone? Who will look after him? Because it won't be me. What happens if they get ill? Who will look after them? Mike is incapable. Kelly lives down south, and I plan on moving back to my husband's hometown, 3 hours away, once the kids have left home. So I can't do it. They just looked at me blankly. I really don't think they'd ever even thought about any of that before. I told them they had set Mike up to fail, and now they needed to deal with it. I also told them I knew they were leaving everything to him in their will, but with how they've babied him, he'd blow through that money in less than a year. Then what? I could see the panic in my mom's eyes when I said that. She either hadn't thought about it or thought I would look after him, but she now knows isn't going to happen. I also think she was shocked that I knew about the will. After I told them what low contact with me would look like going forward, and them not being happy about it, I left. Hopefully I've given them a lot to think about. I'll check in with them from time to time, but that's all for now. I'm going to visit Kelly in the next couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. My extended family have also backed off after I sent them all a text saying if they were so concerned about my mom, they could be her support system and deal with Mike, the same way Kelly and I have had to for years. Not surprisingly, none of them wanted to. Otherwise, I'm just going to try and get on with things as normal. Thanks for the not the a-hole verdict and all the advice. It opened my eyes to a few things I'd been brushing off. I also told them I knew that they were leaving everything to him in their will, but that with how they have babied Mike, he would blow through that money in less than a year. And then what? Some people inherit their parents' house, and through good financial planning and healthy financial habits, they manage to keep the house for future generations. Other people, after being cosseted all their lives and being gifted a modest fortune or home, blow through it in a year, or 2 or 3, and end up having the property seized for failure to pay taxes, or for not keeping up the property, or it gets seized by the bank because the new owner decided to get a home equity loan for some quick cash and forgot to make the monthly payments. I would feel bad for your brother, but it's hard to do that for someone who still acts like a child as an adult. How shameful of them to leave everything to one child when they have 3 children and OP has children, and the other is getting married and will most likely start a family soon. OP, please don't let them come crying to you if they need any elder care in the future. Mike can take care of them. Based on the update, it sounds like that is exactly what they were expecting. And for OP to take care of Mike as well. Leaving everything to Mike isn't any more shameful than the way they have been handling things up till now. They know the 2 daughters will be able to take care of themselves, so at least they are following through with the enabling as long as they can. Sarcasm. They 100% thought I would be around to look after them and Mike. They were shocked when I told them that wasn't going to happen. I'm hoping it's a real wake-up call for them. My parents don't have much in savings, so Mike will sell the house as quickly as possible, go into the cheapest rented accommodation he can find, and blow the money on FIFA, nights out, and clothes. He will be broke within a year. He racked up £5,000 on credit cards with FIFA packs before, so most of the money will go there. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being resentful and angry that my parents had me so I'd take care of my disabled brother when they die? I, 17 male, have an older brother, Shane, 21 male, who's disabled and will never be able to live independently. My parents knew from birth that Shane was physically disabled, but it was when he was around 3 that they realized he was on the autism spectrum too. By the time I was born, he had also been diagnosed with an intellectual disability. All 3 of these together mean he has a lot of care needs. He needs help getting in and out of his wheelchair in bed, washing himself and brushing his teeth, eating and drinking, holding anything in his hands, and he's nonverbal, so he doesn't have the communication skills to express what he needs with words. I was primarily raised by other family members until I was 5. I spent those first 5 years moving from relative to relative and would visit my parents and Shane. Once I turned 5, my parents moved me in and started teaching me all about taking care of Shane. They had me picking up after him, learning to bathe and feed him, and doing all kinds of things. They told me how important I was to our family and how they knew Shane needed me before they even had me. I was 8 when my parents admitted they had me because they knew he'd need a sibling to look after him when they died, and they were so glad they had me, so they'd never have to worry about it. My life has revolved around this, and it has also limited my life. There were things I just never got to do because my parents deemed them too high risk for me. So I don't know how to swim. I don't get to hang out with friends, really ever. I only had friend birthday parties, and they never rented a bounce house or got me a trampoline when I was younger. All play with cousins was expected to be gentle and have no risk of causing me harm. Their biggest fear isn't that I'd die because they'd miss me, but because of Shane. My education has suffered a lot because of it. I'm graduating next year and I already know my grades won't be anywhere close to good, but I'll pass, which is something, at least. My extended family doesn't want to help me have a life, and I feel brushed off whenever I ask them for help. My parents only care about me as Shane's future guardian, and not as their son too. Now that I'm older and I feel like I never really got to be a kid, I'm so resentful, and I'm angry at my parents for putting me in the position I'm in. Lately, I've been really bitter in interactions with my parents. They've called me out on it, and I finally told them exactly how I feel. I admitted to being resentful and angry that they had me to be my brother's keeper. They got mad at me for having any problem with it. They think I should love Shane enough to do all this stuff willingly. My extended family has been acting colder since I told my parents to, so I know the family I've seen lately, paternal grandma, paternal aunt and uncle, maternal cousin of my mom, are on my parents' side. Although I already knew that, nobody cared to help me. Am I the a-hole though? Now for the top comments. Thoughts? Shane is not your child and not your responsibility. You need to look into getting a job and saving money to move out on your own. Look into shared accommodation to begin with as it's more affordable, then leave. You are not your parents' backup plan. There are plenty of options for your parents that don't include you sacrificing your life. One step at a time, and start your exit plan ASAP. Do you have any friends or family that you can speak with about this situation? I mentioned in my post that I have talked to extended family. They won't help me and side with my parents on this. My friends know, but they can't help me. My parents never let me get a part-time job. I tried once or twice, and they intervened and said I wasn't allowed to work and they didn't give their consent. They don't like me being out of the house for that long. Not the a-hole. They can't force you to be the caregiver. Move out and don't sign anything without reading. Extended family don't want to be straddled with Shane either. That's why they support the parents' plan. I can't move out, but I've never signed anything nor would. I don't want to be his caregiver the way they expect me to be. You can move out when you graduate. Someone else suggested joining the military, and I second this. I did at 17, not because of a crappy home life, but because my parents couldn't help with college. I wanted out and away from our little town that offered nothing. The best decision I ever made. And it is absolutely horrific that your parents conceived you to be your brother's keeper. That is not your job, it's theirs. Please get out as soon as you can. It'll be hard, but you need to get out ASAP. God bless you and good luck. That's really not something I would ever do. I'll look at other options, but the military is a hard no for me.
Am I the a-hole for telling my parents that either I move out or they do something about my brother? Original post. I, 25 male, live with my parents in a very expensive city. We stay in a 3-bedroom high-rise. My mom decided she wanted to move to this city because she was tired of living in the country. I agreed to move with them because the city had many software engineering jobs. I was able to get a high-paying job and make 6 figures. My mom and dad are school teachers and their combined income is just under what I make. My brother James and his wife Mary had originally stayed in our old state, but once she found out she was pregnant, my mom and dad invited them to move into our house. I work from home sometimes and pay 75% of the bills and mortgage, so the spare bedroom was my office. My brother and his wife showed up at my house, which I didn't know about, and demanded my room. My room has a walk-in closet and bathroom. I told them to take the office because it has an air mattress for guests, but my parents told me to let them have my room. I reminded them how I pay most of the bills, and I'll move out if they have my room. My mom yelled at me and told me I was a jerk, but my dad just told them to go to the spare room. I went to the office the next day but forgot my laptop, so during lunch, I came home and found my sister-in-law taking my stuff out of my room. Everyone else had left for work. I yelled at her and asked what the hell was she doing. She screamed back that my mom said to do this. I grabbed all her stuff that she moved, which wasn't a lot, and threw it on the floor, and told her I will kick her and my brother out of her stuff in my room when I get back from work. My brother and mom blew up my phone when I was at work, and my dad started a group chat and said that there will be a family meeting when everyone gets home. I stopped at his store to grab a knob with a lock for my door. My parents, sister-in-law, and brother was sitting on a couch when I got home. My brother tried to get in my face, but I'm taller and bigger than he is, so I just put my hand on his face and shoved him out of my way. I knew this infuriated him because he's older than me. My dad told me that I should just let them have the room, and my sister-in-law smiled at me. I told them that I pay most of the bills and they're living under my roof because my name is on a mortgage. And if they want the bigger room, they could either pay me rent or the four of them can move out. My dad tried to bargain with me, but I told him I'm not talking about this anymore, and if I hear about it again, I will have everyone evicted. My sister-in-law started crying and I went to my room. My dad is treating me okay, but everyone else is giving me the silent treatment. I thought everything was okay, but the next night I came home from dinner. My mom made everyone but me a plate. She said until I give up my room and be a good son, she will not cook me dinner. My dad agreed with her. I paid for every grocery. So I went into my room and printed eviction notices for my mom and dad. My brother and sister-in-law hadn't been there long enough to be considered squatters. I told my brother and sister-in-law they had an hour to pack and get out or I'll call the police. Then told my parents they have 30 days or I'll take legal action. All our extended family stay in a different state, and they don't have the money to support 4 people in this city. My mom begged and tried giving me her plate, but I said it wasn't about the food. My parents put my brother and sister-in-law in a hotel room for the night, and my mom tried to apologize, but I ignored her and went to my room. I'm writing this right now to see what I should do, because I'm honestly confused. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Your mom just decided to ask your brother and sister-in-law to move into the home that you pay for and then decided to play games. Well, the 4 of them can just move back since they can't afford this city on their own. That was the stupidest attempt at a power play I've ever seen. It is time for you to enjoy your place on your own. Mom played the "if I don't get my way, I won't cook for you" card and quickly found out that if OP has to cook anyway, she doesn't need to be under his roof at all. She tried to withhold the one thing of value she brings to OP, having to share his home with 4 people, and they wanted to stick him in the office? The best thing is, she was cooking everyone else's meals with the food he had paid for. The audacity of that blows my mind. Right? Like, she's already noticed that it pays for everything, and she still tried it with this. Not the a-hole. I'm guessing the parents and brother thought they had autonomy over you because you're the youngest. Your actions have proven they don't. Your mother, though, wow. It's good that you didn't hesitate to put her and your brother in their place. Otherwise, this could have dragged on to them railroading you. Perhaps they'll get a place together. The obvious solution since both couples are now and will be homeless. Not your problem since everyone is an adult. Adult enough to make these decisions and adult enough to reap the consequences. I was thinking this was a classic, tell me your sibling is the golden child without saying they are the golden child. I mean, he could have played this passive-aggressive like mom, but I'm glad he didn't. Though I suggest he buy no food for the house for the rest of the time they stay there. In fact, start interviewing people to rent their room. In fact, if you have friends that your parents don't know, do a mock house showing and let them know how much the room is renting for. I'm always happy when these situations bite the parents and entitled siblings in the butt. My mom kicked me out when I was taking care of her as she's disabled, paying the bills, maintaining the house, etc. because I made my sister mad by setting a boundary. Sister moved in. Now the house is a hot mess. My mom hasn't had a home-cooked meal in years, and my mom has told me more than once how she misses how I did everything. I've told her I'm never doing that for her again and plan on moving overseas. She had a gem in you and didn't appreciate it. You understood your value and didn't let them disrespect you or cross your boundaries. I love this for you. Live your best life overseas, love. Now for the update. I went to work and my parents had left before me, which was unusual. But my mom had texted me throughout the day with apologies. I've seen comments that said my mom might be narcissistic, but this is the first time she's acted like this. So I was honestly hurt when it happened. But when I came home from work, my brother, sister-in-law, and parents were sitting on a couch. My dad said they're sorry for the way they acted and thought because I'm usually the voice of reason that I was going to back down. My brother said the request seemed small, and because I have a perfect life, giving up one thing to accommodate him in his time of need is what family does. Side note, my brother has no debt. My father is a veteran, so we were able to get free education somehow. But because my brother changed his major 5 times, he had to pay for 3 years of extra coursework that wasn't covered. My parents took on that burden and are still in debt because of it. They also didn't sell or rent out the old house because my brother convinced them that he would like to start a family there someday. So they have some debt because of it. But my brother is not in need of anything. My brother also told me that because it's our parents' condo, they should have a final say. I explained to him that it's my condo and my name is on the mortgage, so they actually get no say in what goes around here. He was confused. He said I possibly couldn't afford this place on my salary. He said a person making $50K a year could not live this lifestyle. I explained to him that I make 3 times that much, and our parents can't afford to live here without me because of the mortgage back home and the student debt. James said that Dad took care of the student loans and that the old house was already paid off. I looked at my parents wondering why they lied to him, but I explained that they're in a ton of debt because of him and refused to sell the house because of what he said. James asked our parents why they didn't tell him all of this. My mom burst out into tears, telling James they knew he was jealous of me since I was in high school. Mom knew that me playing varsity football my freshman year of high school when he rode a bench as a senior is what started his dislike. And me playing college level at a Big Ten school didn't help. We also graduated the same year. So James told Mom that it wasn't fair that I got to do all those things. So Mom and Dad began babying him in order to compensate for this, so he wouldn't hate me, and a family could continue to be around each other without animosity. James just walked out the door without speaking another word. My sister-in-law apologized and said she didn't know it was my house. I asked her why would that change anything. She ignored my question and went to the guest room. My dad tried to explain that they felt like they failed my brother. I asked was it just because of the football thing. He said it was because James wasn't given the same opportunities as me. I explained how James skipped school to drink and smoke and join a gang. I asked, do you think we should have gotten the same opportunities? My dad said it was hard to explain. I told him what's easy to explain is the eviction notice, and he has 30 days. So I left to my friend's house and that's where I'm at now. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for storming out of my father's house after finding out he's reconciled with my mother? Original post. I, 20 female, was raised by my father, 49 male, alongside my older brothers Lyle and Kyle, both 23 male twins. Mom left us shortly after I was born, so I've never really had a maternal figure growing up. I've tried to ask my dad why Mom left, but he would always try to dodge the question. Anyways, this kind of messed me up a little bit as a kid, because I would always blame myself for her leaving. And it also didn't help that my older brothers would always use the old trusty "you were why Mom left" card in arguments. During my middle school years, my mom began to call me and my brothers. She swore up and down for years that she wanted me back in her life, but didn't make any effort to get to know me. So that woman broke a lot of promises with me and my brothers. The last straw for me was when she didn't come to a beauty pageant I'd been excited for months. I know that sounds really petty, but at the time it was really important to me, and she swore up and down that she would come. Of course, she broke that promise too. So when Mom called to apologize for not coming, I let that woman have it. I think the call almost lasted an hour and a half, and it was mostly just me cussing her out. Obviously, ever since that phone call, I've been no contact with her. But a few days ago, my dad texted me if I wanted to have dinner with him and the boys, saying that he was going to make my favorite meal. Of course, I agreed. I walk in the house and I hear my dad and my brothers talking. Nothing unusual, of course, but then I hear a woman laugh. So I walked to the kitchen and saw my dad, Lyle and Kyle, laughing and talking with my mother. So, at this point, I'm mad and confused. And I think I thought out loud because I said, "What the heck is she doing here?" Everyone immediately becomes silent until Dad starts talking. Basically, he says that I need to watch my tone and that all they want to do is talk to me about their future. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Then my mother had a great idea to drop the bombshell, that her and Dad got back together and had been dating for months. I think you can understand how gooped I was from this information. But then Lyle tells me that basically everyone in the immediate family knew about the relationship besides me because they were worried about how I would react. So I'm still standing there, shaking with rage. So when my dad tried to grab my arm to sit me down so we could talk, I snatched it back and basically stormed out the house. Now, I've been bombarded with texts from my dad and Lyle saying I was immature and made Mom cry. My friends are 50-50 on it. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole for how you feel. They blindsided you and then blamed you for your reaction. If you choose to have nothing to do with your mother, you shouldn't have to. But realize your father is an adult, free to be involved with whomever he chooses. I know he's a grown man, but I just don't understand what he sees in her. She literally left him with 3 kids to raise all by himself. But now that they're all grown up, she wants to come back? This whole situation just has me in a tizzy, to be honest. Focus on what you want. Do you trust your father and brothers enough that you want to continue a relationship? Trust is not the word I would use, but I still love them very much. They've never done anything this hurtful, besides Lyle, but what he does is tame compared to this. He mainly makes fun of my fashion sense. It would have been better for your dad to talk to you alone. The fact that they all kept it from you is very inconsiderate. I'm sorry. I've been there in the sense of being left out or always last to know. Be strong. Thank you. I just feel so upset and confused with them right now because they never kept anything like this from me. Usually, my dad addressed matters with all of us. Now for the update. So before I get into anything, I just wanted to thank everyone for the kind words and reassurance. I wasn't really expecting it at all. I also want to apologize for the late response to everything. I've been busy so much with work and other things that I just haven't had the time. Anyways, with your guys' advice, I texted my dad and told him that I wanted answers about what the heck was going on. He agreed, but he said he wanted to have the dinner over at his place, and I had to tell him that I lost that trust when he tried to back me into a corner. So he came over to my apartment, and I had my friend Male 24 stay in my sewing room for protection. Dad just started sobbing, begging for forgiveness. He kinda went on about how he just wanted us to be the family that we were 20 years ago, the family I don't even remember. And to let you guys know, these were definitely not crocodile tears. So I hugged him to calm him down, but I had to put my foot down and tell him I wanted answers, not tears. He calmed himself a little bit down and explained everything that I asked of me. 1. Mom was very young when she got together with Dad, with a significant age gap. They started dating right after her high school graduation. 2. My mother had a history of drug addiction, something I had suspected. She overdosed once, and my dad had to rush her to the hospital. The twins suffered during this period. 3. I was an unplanned pregnancy, and my parents decided to put my mother in rehab during her pregnancy. She remained miserable, and she ran away to Florida after my birth. 4. Recently, my mom got clean, got a job, and wanted to apologize to my dad. They rekindled their relationship and decided it would be best to let the twins know first before they tell me. It was nice to have this information, and I thanked him for it, but I asked him why didn't she apologize to the kids, whose hearts she broke constantly. Of course, he started to backpedal, saying that I just needed to give her a chance to prove herself, because the twins already have. I added it was a really horrible move not to even mention to me that Mom was back. And I had to explain to him that I have given another chance, way too many times, and that she destroyed that bridge beyond repair. But I did tell him that I wasn't going to cut them off for it, but Mom was just going to be the new woman, and that we needed to go to therapy without Mom before we continued anything. Dad was a little upset when I laid down this information to him, but he did agree on therapy and said he would tell Lyle and Kyle about it. He did told the twins. Kyle was down, but Lyle was mad. He tried calling multiple times and wouldn't pick up, so he started texting me horrible things, basically boiling it all down to me being a spoiled brat that needs to get over the past. I gave him a piece of my mind before I blocked him, and we've been no contact since. We also had our first therapy session, and it wasn't groundbreaking. It was just kind of like an introduction type thing and kind of addressing what we want to work on. I showed the therapist my post when I was alone with her to give her more context, because I can be scattered brain at times. She says she definitely wants to go deeper on my feelings about my mother, alongside my father and brothers if possible. I hope the therapy helps. This sounds like the most positive outcome anyone could have hoped for, to be honest. Especially Mom. You definitely owed a huge apology from her. Multiple. It strikes me to not be so hard on your dad. He has clearly loved her this whole time. And Lyle probably saw how hurt and damaged he was after she left, so is happy for him. You are one family, but all experienced and saw different things in this situation. I'm sorry your dad couldn't articulate that she didn't leave because of you though. So confusing for a young child, and such an easy fix with the right words. Thank you. It's also been helpful during this situation to see Dad's side of things. Makes me put things in perspective. But at the moment, I just can't bring myself to have anything to do with my mother. And it also didn't help that Lyle went ape on me as well. I'm just hoping everything falls into place in the future.